we are here at the 2024 World Athletics Relays in Nassau, Bahamas. And if you couldn't tell, the music is behind me, the track is behind me, the stands, there is so much going on. But I have a couple topics that I want to dive into today. First off, should we actually require athletes from the United States to compete at some of these spring meets, whether it's World Relays, Texas Relays, et cetera, et cetera? Should we require it for athletes to actually then be selected for the Olympic Games or the World Championships later on in the summer? So hear me out on this. There was a team that we saw here for the United States men where it was Courtney Lindsey, Bednarek, Noah Lyles, as well as Kyree. They ran the 4x1. They won the race in a pretty fast time relative to other teams that have competed in May throughout history. But they had a lot of synergy. They got to practice. They practiced not only here in the Bahamas, but also in the weeks leading up to the World Relays as well. But we know that on paper, that may not be the fastest team compared to some of the top athletes we have in the United States. Whether that's Christian Coleman, Fred Kyree, Arian Knighton, they definitely are in the conversation to be put on the relay, and some of them, like Coleman and Kyree, actually have run on the relay. But one of the big things that we always speak about with the relays is the baton passes, handoffs, practice, exchanges through the zone, keeping within the zone, right? All those aspects come into play to make sure that we have a successful relay. And we know that the United States men specifically have always struggled when it comes to a relay. Case in point, the last time that the USA men actually won a medal of any color at the Olympic Games was 2004 when they got the silver medal behind Great Britain. Yes, I know that they medaled in 2012, they got the silver, but they were banned because of Tyson Gay. He was banned, so that unfortunately doesn't count. They don't have that medal. So it's been 20 years since the United States men actually got a medal at the Olympic Games. So this goes into practice, this goes into all the factors that I noted before. And considering that we have a couple athletes who have actually practiced over the past couple weeks, should we just keep that same team and allow them to go to the Olympic Games and run, potentially beat the world? Well, a couple things come into play here, and I'm gonna split this into two parts. One part, of course, we have the athletes who competed here as a cohesive team, and then another part where we have athletes who compete at various different spring meets and then getting the chance to compete at the Olympics. So first off, this specific team, a couple of reasons. They all train in Florida. Courtney Lindsey, Kyree, as well as Bednarek, they train under Dennis Mitchell in Montverde. You also have Noah Lyles, who trains under Lance Brahman, but he trains in Clermont, Florida. That is not too far away. They can go and train together. They actually said that they have gotten a chance to practice a little bit before coming to World Relays. That gives them the chance to not only practice together, get the baton handoffs right, get their zone, placement right, all those aspects. But then, if we're talking about the summer season leading up to the Olympics, they can just have relay practice. They can have training camp right there in Florida. They don't have to worry about, going overseas or coming together and, figuring out schedules. They all are right there in Florida, which is going to lead to the opportunity for them to practice a little bit more. And what is the main criticism? Like I said, the United States men don't get to practice. We have a team here. They can practice, get them on the track. During training, during the season, they can practice as much as they would like. So that's the first big case here. On top of that, they just competed at the World Relays here in the Bahamas. So they already got some experience, not just at practice or at home, right? They got some experience competing against the best in the world. You're talking about competing against Canada, against Japan, against Great Britain, against some of the other top countries that are very much in the conversation for a medal. This is definitely an experience that cannot be replaced. Now, on the surface, I know many people are going to say an athlete like Kyree maybe isn't the fastest on paper compared to a Christian Coleman or a Fred Kyree. And considering the relay selection process, the top three from the Olympic trials are likely going to be, the favorites for the relay pool. So I know I'm using Christian Coleman and, Fred Kyree as, the top guys, in consideration here. But you also have others, whether it's Ronnie Baker, who ran at the Olympic Games, whether it's Crevon Charleston, who won USA's last year. There's Trayvon Bromell, who could get healthy, and, he's been on the relay in the past in 2015 and 2016. So there are a couple guys who are definitely in consideration and maybe on paper are very much faster than a Kyree, maybe even than a Courtney Lindsey when we're talking about the 100, or even a Kenny B when talking about the 100. But I do think that synergy and that connection and that training is a huge factor that we can't replicate. Now, on the flip side, should we require athletes to compete at whether it's World Relays, Texas Relays, Penn Relays, Tom Jones, Florida Relays, should we require them to compete in at least one or two of those meets before they get a chance to run on the relays? And if they don't compete in one of those meets, should they not be allowed to compete on the, at the Olympic Games in the 4x1, even if they did finish top 3 or top 6? Well, I don't know. I'm not ready to say that that's an absolute fact that they shouldn't get that chance. But I do think that needs to be taken into consideration considering what we've seen. If you don't practice with some of the other athletes who are actually running relays, then why should you get the chance to compete at the Olympics? Now, why would this be important? Well, look historically. I'm going to circle all the way back to 2012, where we saw the USA women run a team at the Penn Relays and then go to the Olympic Games with the exact same team and break the world record, get the gold medal. You're talking about Tiana Madison, Allison Felix, Bianca Knight, and Carmelita Jeter. Bianca Knight was not the fastest on paper. She didn't make the Olympic team finishing top 3. She didn't even finish top 4. She finished 5th place in the 100 meters at the Olympic trials. But because she had practiced with the team, because we saw them actually execute on a relay early on in the season, the relay coaches realized, okay, listen, this team worked. Let's actually put this on the track. And guess what? We saw fireworks, we saw the gold medal, and we saw the world record. Jenna Matarbo, who finished 4th place at the Olympic trials, actually equal with Allison Felix at those 2012 trials. She ran in the heats, but she didn't run in the final. She was replaced with Bianca Knight. So this does have to be factored in because of that practice. Another case in point, we saw Michael Rogers, Justin Gatlin, and Noah Lyles all come together for the World Relays in Yokohama in 2019, and they were able to run that relay and eventually go to the Doha World Championships, where they later added Christian Coleman and they won the gold medal. Yes, now I understand Christian Coleman wasn't on that relay, but the fact of the matter is 3 of those guys came together, they had that synergy, and they were able to win the gold medal later on in Doha. And I think that was the first gold medal for the United States since about 2007, if I'm correct. I think that might have been the first one since 2007. So that's actually kind of a crazy stat where you got some practice in and they were able to get the gold medal. So they're definitely fact check me in the comments. There could be some, they've won silver medals, they've won a couple other medals. But again, with that practice, they were able to come together and actually win medals. And the final example I want to give for these spring meets is that back in 2023, every single top women's sprinter in the United States actually came to the Texas Relays and ran on some combination of the 4x1. I think they had, 5 or 6 different relays of the 4x1 in one heat. We saw Kyree, we saw Gabby, we saw Jenna Prandini, we saw even Kenny Harrison, Aaliyah Hobbs, Makai Briscoe. Everyone was on the track at the Texas Relays because Coach Michelle Lewis-Freeman really wanted to make sure that she can get some early practice with them, see some different combinations, see where different people work, and then execute later on in the summer when it got to the World Championships. And guess what? They got the gold medal at the World Championships. They beat out Jamaica, who was probably faster on paper. They got the championship record. Again, that practice led to a gold medal at the World Championships. Yes, the women had been very consistent at the Olympic Games and the World Championships, winning medals at every global championship since 2011, but that practice led to something really, really well. Now, am I saying this is absolutely exclusive? Absolutely not, right? We saw that in previous years, specifically last year, the USA men might not have practiced as much. Fred Kerley, Christian Coleman, Brandon Cards, and Noah Lyles, they didn't practice throughout the season, but we do know that more practice would definitely be beneficial. Well, looking at those 2 factors, do I think that it should be required for athletes to compete at some of these spring meets before going to the Olympic Games and the World Championships? In my opinion, I probably would say yes. Now, should they absolutely run every single spring meet from Texas Relays, Florida Relays, World Relays, et cetera, et cetera? No, I don't think that's realistic, considering that athletes have different schedules, right? Some athletes may get injured. Some athletes just may be on, different training cycles that may not be conducive to competing at every single one of these relays. But I do think they should run at least one of those relays with at least 2 or 3 other top sprinters in the United States to at least be part of that relay pool when we get to the Olympics or the World Championships, regardless if they finish top 3 or top 6 at the Olympic trials. Now, do I think that this year, the same team we saw here of Courtney Lindsey, Kenny B, Kyree King, and Noah Lyles should be the same team that goes to the Olympic Games? I don't know if I would say exactly that. Now, I think it would be really dope, and I think that they can run very fast, but I'd be lying if I said that I don't think Christian Coleman, Arian Knighton, Fred Kerley, Crevon Charleston if he's healthy, and some other guys, Trayvon Bromell, Marvin Bracey Williams, I do think that they very much should be in consideration to be on the relay when we get to the Olympic Games. What if Christian Coleman or Fred Kerley runs 9.7, almost breaking the American record at the Olympic trials? Should we take them off? No, I don't think we should take them off the relay just because they didn't run here at World Relays, right? That speed can be translated into, good baton handoffs if they do get the practice right between July all the way to August before the Olympic Games. But it would have been great to see some of them on the track here in the Bahamas. Now, if I was to put together a perfect 4x1, I don't think I could. There is no perfect 4x1. But I would say, in my ideal world, based on what I know right now, I would actually say, this might hurt some people, but Christian Coleman, I think he should be lead off. He's led off the USA relay for a couple years that have won, whether it's silver medals or gold medals at the World Championships. So I would put Christian Coleman on first. And then I'm kind of splitting hairs, but going based on what I see right now, I would say that Kenny B should be second. Kenny B, based on what we saw at the World Relays, based on what he's done in the 200, based on what we've seen him do, in the 100, he has a personal best of 9.89 seconds. He very much has proved himself to be a very, very strong second leg runner. I would put him on my second leg. Third, I would probably put Erriyon Knighton on that third leg. And I know that a lot of people have been calling for Erriyon Knighton to run that third leg, but I'm kind of splitting hairs between Erriyon Knighton and Courtney Lindsey. Yes, Courtney Lindsey, he went crazy at the World Relays this weekend, but I think that Erriyon Knighton definitely deserves a spot on the relay, considering what he's done in the 200, considering his speed around the curve, right? Think back to all of his 200-meter races. He is sometimes one of the top athletes leading off the curve, no matter who is in the race. So I think that he definitely deserves a spot on that relay. And then anchor leg, it's hard to bet against Noah Lyles. He's not only run on multiple relays, but he's proven himself on anchor. He's proven himself as the best 200-meter runner in the world right now. He's proven himself as the double, world champion in the 100 and the 200. So it's going to be hard to take Noah Lyles off that anchor. But I do want to say that Courtney Lindsey, he has really proven himself. 19.71 seconds in the 200. He showed up on the, first leg at the World Relays here. Yes, I do think that, man, it's hard for me to say. Courtney Lindsey, Erriyon Knighton on that third leg. One of them I think could be put on third. And then Fred Kerley. Fred Kerley, again, I'm just going based on what we've seen right now. He hasn't shown that form that I would give him that, second leg spot. But if he drops a 9.7, if he drops a 9.8, at some point during the season, he very well could be on that second leg. If he makes a team again this year in the 100, he could definitely be on that leg, and he probably deserves to be on that leg. But again, just to highlight my relay based on what I know right now, Christian Coleman, Kenny Bednarek, Erriyon Knighton, and then Noah Lyles. That would be my four. But again, I do want to highlight, I do think it would be really good if we saw a requirement for USA athletes to run on some of these spring meets to be able to solidify their spot in the relay pool and on the relay at the Olympics or the World Championships. And then on top of that, I would not be opposed if we saw this exact same team for the men, Courtney Lindsey, Kenny Bednarek, Kyree King, and Noah Lyles. I would not be opposed if they all ran at the Olympic Games later on this summer, because they have that synergy, because they train in Florida, because they can get together and actually have relay practice and relay camp in the same place in Florida, all close together. But this is just my opinion. Let me know what you think about the USA relays this year, specifically on the men's side. I didn't talk about the women because the women have been super consistent. I feel like regardless of what they do, they're very much going to be, on pace for a podium spot, if not gold, at the Olympics later on this summer. But let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, y'all.